We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Talking TV business, your favorite shows. If you have a question or comment, Programming Director Mark Binda is with us, former CBS executive professor and author. Hold up your book. This is Jim McKairnes. And this book is available where, by the way, Jim?
Amazon.com.
Okay, Amazon. And
I'm buying it right after the show's over.
Yeah, you should.
I mean, just look it up under my name or under the name of the book.
And again, that book basically is looking, as we've said earlier in the show, the 70s.
It's a look at the 70s. It's the look of the 70 things about the 70s that changed the nation, actually, but also changed television. I just narrowed it down to a gimmicky list of 70, but it's people, events, and programming that ended up contributing to the revolution that was the 1970s. The 1970s began with Gunsmoke and Lassie, and it ended with Soap and the development of Hill Street Blues. You know, the first episode of Lassie in 1970 was Lassie Has Amnesia. The last week of December in 1979 was about an interracial romance on Soap, and Jessica catching Chester in yet another infidelity, and the young high schooler having an affair with his teacher. So that's 10 years of television and how TV changed. Wow. And I still want to know how Lassie had amnesia. Yeah, but that was the episode, the first week of January 1970. That was the episode of Lassie.
And taking us up, what happened then in ways has influenced the TV we watch today as well. So we can take questions about any number of items. Let's go back to the phone lines, and we've got Linda. Good morning, Linda.
Good morning, fellas.
Hi.
Good morning.
I just want to say sorry, CBS, because I have to go to MeTV a lot of times to watch the old TV programs, because so many of the shows now are, I don't know, violent language. I mean, that bothers me.
What shows do you like to watch now? What shows do you watch on MeTV?
Oh, the old Andy Griffith show.
Oh, that's awesome.
Gomer Pyle. I mean, I see them all over and over again. They've had Happy Days on recently, and just a lot of the older shows. I can't remember all of them. But there's one thing I do want to ask about, if you have any knowledge about TNT. The Closer was on with Kara Sedgwick, and then it went into Major Crimes. Is there going to be any more Major Crimes programs? I noticed that in January they said that was a final season show. And also, I like Law and Order, SUVs, police shows, action things, and I, like everybody else, love Blue Bloods because of Tom Selleck. So those were just my statements and questions, and I'll get off of here. And have a good day, guys.
You too. Appreciate it, Linda.
Thank you.
Don't know.
I do think that TNT did air the last season of Major Crimes. I don't know that it's being shopped elsewhere.
Okay.
And what was her second question?
She just likes the older shows on MeTV.
Likes the older ones and the crime shows, and you said that's a lot of what CBS is built on today.
She mentioned SVU or SUV. I forget which what it is.
Special Victims Unit. SVU.
Now, for good or ill, that show, if it's renewed, is about to eclipse Gunsmoke as the longest running drama in television history.
Which one? I'm sorry.
Law and Order, SVU, Special Victims Unit. It's in its 20th season. So it's tied with its father show, Law and Order Regular. But if it gets one more season, it will, as a result, become the longest running show in television history.
You know what's amazing is how we have so many long running shows right now. You never used to see this, though, really, in the 70s.
Right.
I mean, NCIS is in season 15. We talked about Criminal Minds. Some of these shows run, Big Bang Theory is about to end, but it's in its 12th season. You know, it's amazing how many shows make it into a decade. Grey's Anatomy just became the longest running medical show ever.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm curious. I thought for a while that it's pretty rare to go that long. What makes it? Yeah, to go that long. Survivor's still plugging along, right? I mean, so what is it makes a show survive that long? Just because the writers at some point, aren't they hitting writer's block? I mean, what? Yeah.
Well, there are different show writers and different writers that come in and out of a show throughout its run, but I think, and this is kind of a cynical perspective, and it's a broad stroke, but I think it's better to renew what you have, even if there's fewer people watching it, than to take your chances on another new show.
Because the new show's catching fire and sticking around. I mean, how many times have we done shows where we're trying to predict what's going to be around, and one or two stay, but most of them go away?
Yeah, it is so hard to have a hit show these days that you're right. It's better to renew what you've got.
What I always find fascinating is The Simpsons and America's Funniest Home Videos, which began pretty much the same month. They now have been on 1/3 as long as the television has been a business.
Wow.
1/3 as long as television industry has been around. I find, or actually more than that at that point. It's 30 years, and television's been around for about 78 or so.
Wow.
So it's beyond that. It's fascinating.
All right, hard to believe. Let's go next to George. George, good morning. What's on your mind? Hi, George.
Hey, listen, very good show. I want to ask your guest 2 questions pertaining to Hollywood and to the TV industry. I know here in America we have a diverse set of people that like certain types of entertainment. Okay, but at my age now, which is 73, I don't. There's some TV shows I don't watch anymore. Whenever I'm watching the television, the local TV shows or national, the commercials come on, I automatically put it on mute because I don't want to hear what they talk about because they just go over and over and over. But back to Hollywood. Does not Hollywood have a responsibility to the general public, okay? Not only to produce entertaining, family, clean, and decent shows, but also to not do so much dramatization of violence on television, okay? That turns me off, and that turns most people off that aren't violent or violent in nature. Secondly, my favorite shows are The Simpsons, and I love the old cowboy shows, okay? Not necessarily the cowboys and Indians, but the cowboy shows, because it reminds me of my childhood, because we didn't have a TV for a little while there. But anyway, I just wanted to say thank you for having this program, and again, those 2 gentlemen that are connected with entertainment. I know people that produces all these shows are in business to make money. I understand that, okay? But we have a moral problem here in America. And Hollywood has responsibility, and so does CBS and all the other major networks, okay?
I hear him. I'm glad you made that last point, because I was going to, Jim, as a CBS executive, and you see it as a programming director, though, I mean, the bottom line is, isn't it, in a lot of these meetings, when you're back there, and maybe you were scratching your head when you see some of these shows that are so violent, and you agree, but if they're selling and making money, and the FCC's not coming down on you, I mean, it's going to go, isn't it? If it's a money maker, short of getting you in trouble with the FCC, it's going.
Correct, and there's a lot of what the gentleman said that is worth discussing, probably under a different format, but ultimately, one answer that a president of CBS gave, and it could have been any network who said this, was, as far as content goes, and if there's an issue with it, the audience, she said, will tell us when enough is enough. So that does come down to ratings, which means that viewership and ratings, and if it's making money, that's fine until it's not.
And so, because what he was saying is he doesn't like it and he doesn't watch it, but the bottom line is people are. He's in the minority on some of these shows, apparently, because a lot of people do watch them.
Correct.
So is there a responsibility, though, beyond making money, you think, for the TV studios?
Do I think?
He mentioned
absolutely.
Hollywood.
I absolutely think, and I wrote that down, there is a responsibility to the viewer on both a local level or a national level. There's a responsibility to a consumer, and that sounds very noble, but I think there's a responsibility to all your consumers who are consuming your product. The issue that we have probably is the wobbly definition of decency.
Right.
Is one man's decency is another man's, well, I saw it on the news this morning, or in the newspaper, read it in the newspaper yesterday, why can't it be on TV? So that's a fuller discussion, that's another discussion, it's worth having. But that was the problem with the Family Hour 40 years ago, and why it only lasted a year, and why it was so derided. Because they said the first hour, and this is 40 years ago, we're still talking about this, the first hour was to be devoted to family-friendly programming. Well, once everybody decided that was a great bumper sticker to apply to, the automotive, the car that was Hollywood, then the debate was, well, what is family-friendly programming? And so it became an issue. Does that mean a documentary on conception from Nat Geographic, or a special that deals with drugs and teenagers? And that's kind of uncomfortable to watch. Does that mean that can't be on at 8 o'clock? Can news not be on at 8 o'clock in the first hour of prime time? So after a year, the Supreme Court ruled it unconstitutional and in violation of free speech.
All right, so Mark, Channel 5 anyway, and CBS, the programming, we've looked at it, and in the past, I'm sure some shows or content, I mean, we pay close attention to whether or not something we think fits what we want to serve up our viewers.
Right. You know, there are issues that, you know, kind of sneak up on us every now and then. The Janet Jackson thing in 2004 Super Bowl. I mean, I think people overreacted to that, perhaps. I mean, it was, you know, barely was a millisecond on the air. I spent a week answering the phone that particular week, which is amazing. But it's amazing what was considered taboo at one point, and now everybody laughs it off. I mean, you may even wrote this in your book, Jim, about, you know, I think the first time you heard a toilet flush was on All in the Family, and you never heard that before.
Never heard that.
And wasn't like Dick Van Dyke and Mary Tyler Moore the first people? Was it the Bradys that first slept in a bed together
for the first time?
Yeah.
It's just classic.
And again, then you factor in the fact that there's this one scene in Born Innocent that people in 2014 didn't want on the air.
Yeah,
right.
So going back that far.
It's hard to figure out what that definition should be.
NYPD Blue certainly, when it came on the air, broke a lot of. I mean, there were stations that refused. The ABC station in Bowling Green refused to air NYPD Blue, and now you would probably say some of that stuff's kind of tame compared to what's on now. Yeah.
Listen, we'll take a quick break on that note. When we come back, more calls. Cindy, we'll get to you when we come back. That's our final segment. If you have a question for Jimmy, this show's flying by, my friend.
We want to get Cindy in there.
Yeah, I promise we'll get Cindy in there, and more questions for Jim or Mark on TV right after this.
I want to ask him a question.
Sure, you got it.